Final girls are basically a staple of the horror media. The final girl is often the last surviving female character who confronts the killer or the antagonist at the end of the story. They'll often come out unscathed through either killing the villain or at least making it out of the situation alive. There used to be a lot of items on the final girl checklist, but let's be honest. It's 2025. A final girl doesn't need to be morally pure or be saved by someone at the end. We're in the era of ready or not, anyone can be a final girl. I think the literal definition is enough nowadays. They're just fun to root for, and it's amazing to see them grow throughout the movie to become a badass. And sometimes, you just wanna see a pretty girl kick ass. I know I'm on both sides of the argument, just saying. With the I Know What You Did Last Summer remake/legacy sequel coming out, there's been a lot of revival in the discussion of the original movie. To me, the 1997 movie was okay. Okay, don't boo me, just let me explain myself. It's interesting, but as a slasher, the movie is kind of disappointing. It feels like an unwanted mix between the slasher and the mystery genre. None of the kills were that interesting and the mystery was kinda confusing. I do love that they made the killer scary during some parts of the movie though, even though there wasn't much gore or blood, which is kind of impressive actually. It's also pretty unique for a slasher film. It's one of those horror films whose strongest points are the characters, not the kills or the villain. Someone described the movie as being more of a character study, which is a pretty clear-cut way of putting it, I guess. Let's really be honest though. The killer mystery was really set up in a confusing way. After finishing the movie for the first time, I had to Google what happened to David Egan. If you haven't watched the movie or need a quick clarification, David Egan had a fiancée named Susie Willis. They both got into an accident where Susie was killed. A year later, he was killed by Susie's father, Ben Willis, who ended up getting hit by the teenagers. Ben Willis of course did not die, and he came back to kill them afterwards. And also yeah, Ray was posing as Billy Blue to pay his respects to the victim David Egan's family members. Billy Blue was actually the name of his boat, and he kinda had nothing to do with the murders at the time. That plot point was kind of stupid to me, but it explains why Ray was suspicious at some points.
He's behind this! How many fucked up fishermen are out there?
Hopefully that clears enough confusion for you. One of the biggest debates surrounding the movie is whether Julie deserved to be the final girl over Helen. It's interesting to me because I see an argument for both sides. Julie was the smarter character, using her brains to suss out the killer and surviving the final encounter with the killer. Helen was the more captivating character, going from an ambitious croaker queen wanting to be an actress to working at her family's fragrances aisle. And also, her chase scene is iconic. In this video, I want to explore this argument and both of their characters to see who deserves the final girl status. I'll be testing the basic and stereotypical final girl formula on both of them. And then I'll go into the reasons why they do and don't deserve the final girl title. Of course, I will be only talking about the 1997 movie. Helen isn't, well, alive for the second one. Let's get to it then. First off, we got Julie James, the actual final girl in the movie. Let's go through the stereotypical final girl checklist and see if it applies to her. First, we got brunette, pure, faced off against the killer, doesn't take substances, is resourceful, and for the most important one, survived her movie. Those are the old school final girl checklists. Let's see if Julie checks any of them. Brunette, yup. Pure, well, both Julie and Helen had done the deed. So let's just follow the original meaning of the word. Is Julie a pure person? A good person? In the context of the movie, yes. Out of everyone in the group, she was the only one who was reluctant with the plan to dump the dead body.
We are going to the police!
Even after his push into the water, she was the only one who had to be threatened into silence. This was intentional, of course. It's to set her up as the morally pure final girl. Faced off against the killer? Well, sort of. If we're honest, the only thing Julie did during the climax was pretty much hide from him, and she also sucked at it. I am not really sure if trying to hide in the man's own boat is the best way to survive, to be honest. She would have been killed if Ray didn't come in time. The main criticism I see is that she never tried to fight Ben in the first movie. She really did, but the flare gun got knocked out of her hand and into the sea. Whoops. For the next item, doesn't take substances? Well, as far as we know, yeah.
Are you on drugs? What?
How about resourceful? Well, yeah. Julie was also the academic one in the group. She was also the one who cracked the mystery and discovered the killer. I would say she was also pretty creative when hiding from the killer at the end. It's just that Ben Willis knew the ins and outs of his own boat, so you know, being creative does nothing. And for the final item, survived her own movie. Yes, and also yes. I haven't watched the 2025 movie fully, but we also know that she survived that too, so we can give her extra points. She basically checks off everything here, so why isn't she considered a good final girl? Well, she's just boring compared to Helen. Throughout the movie, Julie doesn't have any interesting backstory or anything else going on with her. All she does is investigate, which is good for her and all, but her investigation really did not save anyone. She also threw away her investigation for an impulsive choice.
Billy Blue, you're the fisherman.
It's stupid, but it's on Ray for being suspicious. And yeah, they really did not give us anything to work with in the first movie. By the time the 90s roll in, final girls were expected to fight back. When your comparison is Sidney Prescott from Scream, it is kind of impossible to seem like a good final girl. But I think Julie's actions in the boat scene made sense. A teenage girl wasn't going to win against a grown man in a physical fight, and there wasn't anything she could fashion as a weapon. If you look at her as a developed version of the old school final girls, she will stand out. Julie did her homework, discovered who the killer is, and she managed to survive even after Ray arrived to help her. Though I have to say she is kind of stupid at some points, but the girl is hysterical, so you know. But the issue is, if Ray didn't arrive or he got killed while fighting the fisherman, Julie will have been probably dead. That is what makes her weak in comparison to Helen, who really fought her hardest to survive. She even jumped out of an apartment window for God's sake. You know, Julie would have probably survived jumping into the sea and swimming to the pier. Overall, Julie is a great final girl, just by her brains and pure detective skills. She may be a damsel in distress by the end, which does deduct some points, but it's just that the way the main characters and Ben Willis counteracts each other creates an interesting dynamic that benefits Julie's character. If this was a generic slasher film where Ben Willis targeted them for no reason, Julie would have been kind of boring. Maybe it's because the concept of a final girl just doesn't jibe well with the plot of the first movie. Helen Shivers, the cause for this discourse and objectively the most iconic part of the 1997 movie. And maybe the 2025 movie too, that depends on you. But let's apply the final girl checklist to her and see if she's qualified. Brunette? Nope. A natural blonde? Pure? Well, her and Barry were the only ones who pushed Ben Willis into the sea, so you can say that both of their hands were dirty. It's an important part of the movie to me that the two characters who died were the ones who pushed him off the dock. On to the next criteria. Faced off against the killer? Yup. Who doesn't know about her chase scene? This was the only scene I knew from the movie before I even watched it. To me, she was just more proactive in her chase scene than Julie was, which is why people rooted for Helen more. The girl was breaking windows, running for her life, pulling up cargo platform and all, and she even leapt from an apartment window. Helen really only died because she looked back, which is so frustrating, but I guess that's the intention of the scene. This is why it's still one of the most iconic chase scenes in horror history. On to the next item. Doesn't take substances? Well, Helen does smoke a cigarette at one point of the movie, which breaks one of the oldest horror movie rules. Resourceful? Yeah, I already brought it up, but she was doing everything she could to survive. Not everyone could think quick enough to fashion a cargo platform as an elevator. To be honest, that's the most heart-racing scene in the movie. I was so worried a fisherman was going to swipe her feet or something. For a non-final girl, she put up a really good fight, and that's why her death is just so painful to watch. And for the most important item on the checklist, survive the movie. Well, we all know how that turned out. That Helen still had a role in the 2025 movie, but it's in the strangest way possible. But all that matters to me is that the discussion over whether or not she was alive resulted in this very funny quote. Back to the topic, I still think it's crazy that Helen isn't a final girl. Even though she did not check some of the boxes on the final girl checklist, she had a way more interesting character arc than Julie, and in my opinion, she should have been a main lead. It's strange that the fisherman fell into the sea holding Helen's Croaker Queen crown, but instead of recognizing the Croaker Queen crown and targeting Helen, instead he sent a letter to Julie? Which Doesn't make any sense if you think about it. Like, why will he target Julie out of all people? She's not the one involved. She is the least involved of the group. If you think about it, Ray was the one who drove the car, Barry was the one drinking, and Barry and Julie was the one pushing him off into the dock. So why would Julie be sent the letter? All she did was go along with them. It just never made sense to me, that part. In the book, that detail made sense because Julie was the one who sent flowers to the victim's funeral, which was why she was targeted in the first place. But when you change basically everything when adapting the book, it just turns into a lot of nonsense. They should have adjusted Julie's character if they wanted to keep her the female lead. Overall, Helen is the best part of the movie to me. She is such a sweet character, and I find the scene where she tried to reconnect with Julie to be the saddest one, to be honest.
What happened between us? We used to be best friends. We used to be a lot of things.
If Helen survived the movie, she would have probably been such an iconic final girl. Now, time for the final round. Who do I think is the best final girl? Well, in my humble opinion, let's talk about both characters first. Julie really comes into her own in the second movie. She becomes a way more engaging character there, even if she's still stupid sometimes. But I can't lie, I'm still more captivated and interested in Helen's character and what she could have been if she was alive. Final girls don't always have to be perfect. For example, Jess from Black Christmas, one of my favorite horror movie ever, isn't the perfect final girl if you go by my checklist. She's pregnant, she isn't pure, and she still survives. Well, the survival part depends on your interpretation. She survives until the credits roll, so that counts for me. If I have to choose a final girl between Julie and Helen, I will have to go for Helen. No shockers here. If she was the final girl, she would have followed in the footsteps of Jess in my opinion. She would have kicked ass the way Julie did in the second movie if push comes to shove. But we all know though, the chase scene won't have as much impact if she had lived. Listen, Julie is still an amazing character, but the fact that she was so boring in the first movie cannot be helped. I'm sure Jennifer Love Hewitt made the best of what she was given, and what she was given was to look tired and messy and type into a laptop. That's all she did. Oh yeah, who can also forget this scene?
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
But for Helen, you just feel so bad for her throughout the movie. She has a shitty sister who always takes shots at her. Her father is distant and she's fallen far from where she used to be. Her ambition before the accident happened was to become a famous actress, not to work at her family business. If she had survived just a few more hours, she would have probably learned that she didn't kill anyone and be able to move on with her life. Julie and Ray were able to live happily a year after. Helen and Barry could have reconnected and even became the couple they envisioned at the beginning. Regardless, even if Helen did not survive, she still became an iconic part of horror history. I'm not even sure if the movie would have been as notable without the chase scene and how she almost survived it. I mean, just look at the 2025 movie. There's a reason why there's a Helen cameo but not a Max or a Barry cameo. Even though Julie put up a good fight in the final girl battle, Helen has won. This is again only taking into account the first movie. I also think that the first movie is a really fun study of the final girl trope. I mean, Julie even has her own entry in the final girl page. When you look up discussions about this topic, for some reason they only mention the first movie, probably because the second film made less noise, which only affirmed my points that the original movie was only iconic because of Helen. I think everyone here should watch the sequel if they haven't yet. It's actually pretty good, just camp. In terms of being a slasher, it does the genre and its tropes better than the first movie. And also, Randy. Anyways, thank you for watching my half silly, half serious analysis until the end. I just found it curious that no one ever made a video about this topic, so I decided to take initiative and make one. I hope you enjoyed my video and please like and subscribe.